Hey everybody, welcome. I'm Daniel G. Garza, and this is another episode of Put It Together Conversations. Welcome to the show. Put It Together Conversations is a show about folks, about you, where you come from, where you are now, and what the journey is like. And we hope that today's conversation motivates and inspires you to go after your dreams and your goals. I want to welcome all our friends on Facebook, all four channels of Facebook, on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter. Thank you for joining us. Seems like we're having a little trouble on LinkedIn, but we hope that it gets fixed soon. Want to remind you that we're on the four channels, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter. If you're watching us on any of those channels, please share it with your friends and family. If you're watching us on YouTube, will you do us a favor? Scroll down, hit that subscribe button and the little notification bell, and you will be notified every time there's a new show posted. And this is all week long. We have Christian and Daniel show, the Card Devo, Put It Together, and all of the TikTok videos. If you're not following me on TikTok, you should. We're there every morning at 9 a.m. Monday through Friday for Breakfast with the Comadres. So join us there for some readings and some motivational stuff. So go check us out there. I don't know what's going on, but telling me that we're having issues on LinkedIn, but hopefully that'll get fixed pretty soon. Today's guest, let me tell you a little bit about her. Her name is Mary Wu. I just lost there we are. Mary H. Wu is an ABC. She's an ABC, an American-born Chinese patient advocate, poet, published writer, and author of her journey as a two-time kidney transplant recipient, Confessions of a Kidney Transplant Recipient. She is an avid foodie, tea drinker, traveler, writer, cat lover, and swimmer. To learn more, please check out her website, The Wu Way, and we're going to put up that website link in just a minute. Let me go ahead and bring her onto the stage. Ms. Mary Wu, hi, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate you taking the time and to be here, and I'm excited, very excited and honored to be here.
So good to meet you. Mary and I are both Lifebulb ambassadors, and for those of you who are not familiar with Lifebulb, they are an organization that talk about transplants, recovery, alcohol and drug recovery, cancer. I think those are the three. I'm not missing anything, right?
A bunch of medical, I think, avenues or situations, but I definitely think those are the top.
Yeah. So I'm mainly part of their alcohol and drug recovery program. As an ambassador, and obviously you were part of their transplant program.
Yeah, so Lifebulb is great. It's a great way to connect with people. I mean, that's how we connected with each other, literally. So my work as a advocate, quote unquote, that's very broad, but just to briefly share about my story, and we all have a story, share. You can't make up half the stuff that happens in life, right? But I am a two-time kidney transplant recipient, as you mentioned, and the short of it is I was born with renal agenesis. So that basically means my kidneys never fully developed. Now, we're all born with two kidney beans. We can live fine with one kidney bean, and I bring that up because we have the power to donate as a living donor, donate one kidney to another person, alive and well. But anyhow, so mind you, this was back in the 1980s. So this was before medical advances, social media. And I always bring up the fact that I'm ABC, American-born Chinese, because my parents weren't born here. So that's a whole different experience when you're an immigrant and they didn't really have any family. They were just thrown into this medical world. So my kidneys failed by the time I was 3 years old. They just went completely defunct, and I was put on peritoneal dialysis from 3 years old to 5 years old. No one was a match to donate a kidney to me. So it became a very realistic that for me to live my life off a machine, that someone would have to die, a deceased donor, if you will. So I had my first kidney transplant in January of 1987 when I was 5 years old. So it was 2 years in dialysis, had my first kidney transplant when I was 5. And actually, just last year, I learned that my donor, his name was Brian, I connected with his brother, Mark. And Brian was 24 years old when he passed away in an auto accident, car accident in Long Island. Now, I live in New York, so Long Island is somewhat near New York City. But anyhow, so it was amazing connecting with them. And the thing about organ, eye, and tissue donation transplantation is many people think once you have a transplant, this gift of life, literally, that's it. Like, you're good to go, you live your life, but it's a journey. It's a process. There is a lot to keep this gift of life. So, for example, being on lifetime immunosuppressant medications, okay? Now, these medications can cause other side effects. And it's very common that the body can reject an organ because it's seen as foreign. That's why we have these medications, to suppress the immune system, to try to trick the body into thinking, hey, this is your organ. Okay, so we won't reject this organ. But unfortunately, very sadly, my first kidney transplant, it began to fail when I was about 10 or 11 years old. And it's very different being 11 years old versus 3 years old, okay, 3 to 5 years old. I was very much aware of what was going on. I was very aware that for me to live, someone else would have to die. And I was prepped for dialysis. Again, it was very scary. And it has an effect on the whole family. And I think we can all attest to that in our journey, that this is not a solo experience. Whatever we experience, it greatly impacts our loved ones, greatly impacts. It has ramifications and ripple effects. And in February of 1995, I was put on the national waiting list for a second kidney transplant. And May 5th, 1995, we know May 5th is Cinco de Mayo, okay? But I like to say that was really my celebration, my party, because that's when I received my second kidney transplant. But it's always about the donors. I cannot emphasize that enough. My donor, for my second kidney transplant, was a 4-year-old girl, and she died when a mirror fell on her. Yeah. And wow. I'm not a parent, unless you count me being a cat parent, a fur mama. But she, yeah, and to this day, I can't imagine as a parent, as any loved one, making a decision that time when your whole world is crashing down, to say yes to organ, eye, and tissue donation, to saying yes to saving someone's life. And that second transplant has been going on now for 26 years. And life is just, I mean, you hear all the time, like, live life to the fullest. You never know what you got till it's gone. You hear all these things in life. But I think until we experience it, and I do believe we all go through life experiences that challenge us and put us into that dark place, challenging place, to really appreciate and value life as the greatest gift there is. And wow. I've done so many things. Like, I want the second kidney beans, because I received 2 of her kidneys because she was a pediatric and I was a pediatric patient. She was a pediatric donor. To see the world, to live it, and her family, I cannot thank them enough. And it's a whole other story how I've tried to connect with them.
Wow. Okay. Well, before you move to forward, because I've got so many questions.
Sorry.
Based on this, I was like, whoa. I was like, Mary's just ready to go. She's like, she's
I rock and roll, baby.
She's ready. Well, first of all, I don't want to skip over and just thank the folks over at Lifebulb for bringing us together, because we met at one of our monthly meetings, and I just put it out there like, hey, if anybody wants to share their story, here's my show. And you were one of the people that graciously emailed me, and here we are. So thank you, the guys at Lifebulb. They do amazing work. For those of you, please check them out. lyfebulb.org. Go check them out, because they do a lot of awesome work, and they have a lot of grants, and they give away money. So there's a lot of competition type things where you can submit your ideas for different programs. And if you win, I think they usually give like $25,000 for different things. And I know, so go check them out. Go check them out. I'll put on the website up after the show. But so first of all, going back,
Yeah.
you're born already. You're already born into the situation per se, and
Yes.
so at 3 years old, when this first transplant is happening, right? It's 3 years old.
3 years old was when dialysis
When
began.
dialysis
3 years
started,
old, my kidneys went, they
and
crashed.
then 5 years old is when the first transplant happened.
Yes. Yes.
So you haven't known anything other than being on dialysis and like at that age, are they? Is there a special diet for you? Do they have to be careful with what you do? Like, are you just a normal kid?
Well, it's a really good question. So I really think the time period, because this was 1980, so I feel like the medical advances now and the wealth of information available to us, and of course, not everything you Google is true. Okay, but I always say that two things. Number one, this is my parents, especially my dad's story, because my mom left about 3 years after my first transplant. So my dad, he stepped up to the plate. This is really my parents' story, their story, and I think as a parent, it's extremely challenging to have a child that's has health issues, that has chronic health issues, so that, and it's my sister's story too. I have an older sister it's really their story, so they can tell you more than I can tell you at 3 years old, if I'm perfectly honest. But I can certainly and to answer your question, the second transplant, when I was waiting for the second transplant, I definitely remembered about diet, about nutrition, about the reality, about life and death, about being on a machine versus not being on a machine again. Okay, so I was on a renal diet, in the sense that because the kidneys, they flush out all our toxins through urine. That's a very basic line. Okay. And they do a lot more. I call it the balance beans. But anyway, they basically handle removing the toxins. And so I was on a diet where I couldn't have any dairy and meat because it's protein. So if you have a high protein level, okay, the kidneys have to work more. If your kidneys are failing, why are you going to work it even more? You're trying to prevent it and stop it from having to work more than it has to work. So this is why now I'm a big foodie, because after a transplant, now I can eat ice cream, which is like my number one love, among other foods. But yeah, there is such a thing as renal diet, and there are now now I go to a transplant center, and I think everybody who goes, they usually belong to a transplant center where it is a multidisciplinary. You have a lot of people involved. You have the financial counselors, you have the transplant coordinators, you have the nutritionists, you have the nurses, you have the doctor, you have the PAs. It's a whole team.
Right. So let me try to unfold some of the information in my head. But first of all, I wanted to go back because you said May 5th was this your May 5th of 2015 was when I was diagnosed with cancer.
Oh.
So we have May 5th as a connection there.
Yeah. Wow.
I was trying. Before we continue, let me just remind everybody: you're watching Put It Together Conversations. I'm your host, Daniel G. Garza. Today, my guest is Mary Wu. She is not just a transplant recipient, but an advocate, kidney transplant. So we're talking about her first two transplants, her life before as a kid and as an adult. And my question is, because you talked about meeting the brother of the person that donated, can you tell us about that encounter, how you met?
Well, first of all, it's an incredible story because that was back in 1987 when I had my first kidney transplant. So it was an extremely amazing, unexpected story how they even found him, because they found him last year. So there was this whole process, and they didn't think they would find him because it was back in 1987. Medical records and whatnot. It's very, very challenging. It wasn't like Facebook or like LinkedIn.
Right.
They like you could you didn't have Google or anything like that. So so his name is Mark, the brother. Okay, and Brian is the donor. Mark is the brother, and I spoke with them last year, and I haven't met with them. It's a very delicate, sensitive topic to meet with a donor family or even to speak with them. So the fact that they even wanted to speak with me, that it was incredible. But what happens with the whole process of trying to connect with the donor family is, first, it's a matter, I was writing a letter to it's an organ procurement organization. So they're like the liaison, they're the middle people.
Okay.
And then they know who the donor is, or the donor and the donor family. They have to get the donor family's permission to even receive any contact from me, any kind of letter, any kind of notification or anything like that. If then the family agrees to it, they will receive the correspondence. And then it's up to the family what they want to do from there. And so, the family consented that they wanted to connect with me, and we spoke on the phone, and it was very surreal. It was very surreal because I think it was surreal on many levels, because this was at the height of the pandemic when I spoke with them. Okay.
Wow.
And it was a very difficult time for everybody. And then to speak with them, it just brought about, it just reinforced that I am alive, I am here, I am able to speak to you, to advocate, to go to tabling events, to keep telling their story, keep telling my second organ donor and her family story because of these heroes. And it sounds so hero. That's a very broad term, but it's really heroic. They're really saving someone's life. I wouldn't be here talking to you if it wasn't for them. So speaking with them was just such a gift, and it put a lot of closure, and it just made me very humble, because my childhood, my memories, it didn't begin until that first transplant. It really did not.
That's really interesting. Yeah, I'm imagining, and I'm just going to imagine in my head that, like, if this happened during the lockdown, is that we were all looking for some kind of human contact.
Yeah.
And then maybe that pushed them. But you're so right, because in spirituality, energy work that I do, there is that balance between life and death. And in order for something to be born, something is going to die. It's just how the balance works. I know for somebody watching, it might be a little morbid, but in order for you to live the life that you have now, somebody had to pass along and be able to give you this extra bit of life. Does that make sense?
That makes total sense, and you said it perfectly. And I think life is very much yin and yang, contrast, like night and day, life and death, or birth and death. You can't have one without the other. They complement each other. I think the key for me that always hits home is they said yes. People can say no. People can say no during such an unimaginable time of grief. They can, but they said yes. And it is passing on that life and then for me, it's my mission and my hope or intention to just keep on living life to the fullest, keep on telling the stories. We all have stories to share. You can't make up half the stuff that happens in life. And if you can share your story and then connect with that person, I think we're all looking for that connection. We all need hope, and we all need that kind of connection with people. And that's why the lockdown was so hard, if we're going back to that briefly, because we are social creatures. We're not meant to be isolated within our walls for how many days of our life.
You mentioned your family a little bit and how they have their own story. How important for you, and how important would it be for somebody going through something similar? How important is the support system?
Oh, that's crucial. It's absolutely crucial. And I think I briefly touched upon the fact that my mom left about 3 years after my first transplant. So my father he stepped up to the plate, and he took care of my older sister and me. And having that support system, that family, and not just beyond family, friends, because and if it wasn't for my first transplant, I wouldn't have been able to go to school and make the friends, and still have to this day the friends that I have, because they were there. I still have childhood buddies over 20 years. They were there for my second kidney transplant, and they are still here. And anybody can be there when it's nice and pretty and sunshine is out, but it's when it's rough and dark and the waters are rough. That is a true testament to the person, the character, the friendship, the relationship, the dynamics, whatever you want to call it. And to this day, I am eternally grateful, because I couldn't do it alone. No one can do it alone. No one can do it alone. Whether it's the little things, like I mentioned, my mom had left, and so when I had my second transplant, my dad, he brought in my aunt, his sister, and I literally remember sitting with her, going over my medication chart as to what I had to take, when, how much I had to take. And I mean, it sounds like, something like so basic, or something like, oh, okay, it's everything. That's life-saving. Because I mean, I was like a preteen. What do I know about medications? I'm just kind of following the course or whatever. And but for someone to sit with you, and it's going to doctor appointments, asking the questions, being present.
Yeah,
it's everything.
Because I mean, Christian, my partner, was my caregiver during cancer, and one thing that they told us when I started treatment was, because we kid and we toy with each other all the time, but one of the oncology nurses told us, when we were lapping, she's like, if you can make it through this lapping, you'll make it to the end. And then you talk about people who are there in the moments. Our friend Martha, who's a dear friend of ours, she was there through all the process. But there were times when she was my driver to treatment.
Yes.
And those were the times when I would get really sick. So she had to bear with that. But that really bonded us. Yeah. And then our friend Maddie, she was there my very last day of chemo. And she is one of my dearest friends now. Absolutely. But you're right. It's those people that are there when you most need them. Yeah. And they're there for you, then you want to include them in all the big moments in your life. Does that make sense?
Oh, totally makes sense. And it's like family, there's blood family. Obviously, we don't have a choice. We really don't have a choice, But the friends become family too, in so many ways. And it sounds so like, oh, someone who drove me to an appointment, or someone who organized my medicine, but it means everything, because especially if you're sick, I mean, and you're a very fragile condition, physically, mentally, emotionally, having that person there, it means everything. And I work at a cancer center. So I think we have that connection or tie to. I work here at Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. And I used to work in the chemotherapy unit. I was a scheduler, and I had to learn the drugs. So when I could schedule patients because of a chance of a reaction or whatever it might be, and you become family even with that family and with the patient, because you're coming so frequently for the treatment. And this is another reason why it's a testament to my donors, because I wouldn't be able to work if it wasn't, and I hope to pass it on forward. That's why I went into healthcare.
So before we continue to the next part, let me just remind everybody you're watching Putting Together Conversations. I'm your host, Daniel G. Garza. My guest today is kidney transplant patient and advocate, Mary Wu. And we're talking about support systems, being of service, and good times and bad times. So a lot of us go through treatments, or a lot of us go through health issues, but not everybody's built for advocacy and to putting their face out there.
Mhm.
What motivated you to be an advocate and speak about it?
Well, I can answer that question right off the bat. And it's and it's called the Transplant Games of America. Okay, so if you Google, so it's Transplant Games of America, and it's literally an Olympic style event where where recipients honor living donors and deceased donors and their families in all kinds of sporting events and activities. Now, I bring up this ABC, American Born Chinese, because in Asian culture, we typically don't put it out there. We don't like, oh, I've had kidney transplant, I've had this, I've had that. We typically don't share or are very open about that. So for the longest time, I never shared about my health things. But inside, I was always like, this is really important to me that I'm alive. I'm able to go to school, able to live on my own, able to work, able to be with my family and friends, travel, do all this stuff because of my donor families. And then I was looking at advocacy committees or activities or organizations, National Kidney Foundation, Renal Support Network, all kinds of organizations. And I couldn't most people were much older than me, which is fine. But I was always like, I wish there was someone around my age that I could just like. And I always felt like that throughout my life, as a preteen and whatnot. And then that becoming connected with these committees and organizations, it then led to the Transplant Games of America. And it was like coming home because I met all these people who just got it about life as a gift. And ever since my first games in 2010 in Madison, Wisconsin, I was like, well, now I'm going to just be a loudspeaker. I'm going to just talk to I'm going to talk to anybody if they want to listen to me or they don't want to listen to me, whatever, I mean, obviously, you have boundaries or whatnot, but because this is my donor's story. This is their family's story. This is my family's story. And it's the community's story about over 120,000 people waiting for a life-saving transplant. And New York is the lowest number of registered donors. And
Really?
it's number 49. So this is why I tell these stories and why I want to hear people's stories, because a number is a number. You put a name and face to it. That makes all the difference in the world. To hear someone's story, we're all our stories and experiences.
Now, that's something you've said several times through the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
This is their, like, you talk about your parents, you talk about your sisters, like, this is
Mm-hmm.
their story.
Yeah.
It's very interesting the way that, like, you're not making it all about me. Like, this is my journey. So a lot of people do, and I've done it myself. This is my journey. This is,
Yeah.
I had cancer, but you seem to share the different parts of it, because and I say this because when I was in the hospital a couple of times for emergencies during my treatment, there are parts that I know that happen within the hospital room, and there are things that happen outside the door that I have no clue about,
Mm-hmm.
that only Christian knows about. Is that what you're referring to? That there's parts that only that you will never know or don't know that happen?
It's true. Like, so my book, and that was the whole process writing that book, but Confessions of a Kidney Transplant Recipient. But throughout the book, I have these interlude chapters, and it goes into specific people who were so incredible, and who I will never forget in my journey. And so, I mean, now I'm saying my journey, but it's all interconnected. I mean, maybe this is going a little bit new agey or whatever you want to call it, but I really believe we're just all connected with our stories. So it's all about we. So when I say my story, yeah, it's a part of it. It's not everything though, because there have been so many people along the way. How can I just say my journey? They've been a part of my journey. They are my journey. And it's also their journey, because as a caregiver, that's a whole different journey in itself. So that's why I just think it's all interconnected.
Yeah. And you're right, because actually the hospital where you work, they're in New
Mm-hmm.
York. I
Mm-hmm.
believe that's the hospital. When we were in New York, we went to a gallery viewing
Ah.
for one of the organizations that I
Mm-hmm.
do some work for.
Okay.
And the gentleman that runs it had a gallery showing there for some children.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I was there. So, yeah. But you're right. And as advocates, for those of you that are watching, I've been an HIV advocate for over 20 years, and anal cancer survivor and advocate for almost 6 years. Uh, The people that you cross path, especially when you're in the health environment, whether you're a
Mm-hmm.
doctor, a nurse, or an advocate or
Mm-hmm.
a patient,
Mm-hmm.
the people that cross your paths, just like they leave a mark with you, and then you go off and tell other people about it,
Mm-hmm.
we hope that
Yeah.
they'll remember us down the road, and they're telling your story down the way a little bit. Does that make sense?
Yes. Copy forward, pass it forward, pay it
Yeah.
forward. Everything forward. We don't have eyes in the back of our head, only in the front. We have to keep it moving, keep going forward. And if we can do it in the best of ways, in the most positive ways, bring it on. Why not? Right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The last time I had to go to the emergency room, which was in 2016,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um, one of the nurse that took care of me in the emergency room when
Mm-hmm.
we arrived, and she stayed with us through the whole time. I think if Christian can correct me, I think we were there for 11 hours. We bumped into her. She was walking down the sidewalk. We were on a sidewalk cafe having lunch, and she remembered us and stopped. We have a picture with her. I'll have to find it, but she remembered me doing a reading for her, because I do
Mm-hmm.
energy readings. I was reading for her and in the emergency room, and she
Yeah.
remembered all these details. So it's proof, folks. It's proof. I know you're going to say that's only one, but no, no, no. There's been many others. It's proof that if you will leave a mark on people, whether it be positive or negative.
Mm-hmm.
So it's up to you to decide what you do with your energy. And does that make sense to you?
Yes, and I love those stories. I say it when the stars align, or the dots connect, because of my advocacy work. So I started to get involved with speaking events, and I remember I spoke at a nursing society, some nursing event, and one of the nurses came up to me afterwards, and she said, "I know that nurse who's in the picture with you when you were 3 years old in the hospital." I was like, "Yeah, right, yeah." She works with that nurse, apparently. And then she told the nurse, and she showed the nurse a picture or something. And the nurse came back to me, and she's like, "Mary Wu, I know all the nurses, and I know the nurse who took care of you when you were 3 years old." And then she connected me this whole community of pediatric nurses from back in the 1980s. I mean, so it's like what you're saying, so I love those stories, and they haven't happened to me just once, and I don't think they just happen just once for anyone. It's kind of just when everything just clicks and connects, and I love that. I love what you just shared. That's awesome. That's the
And
best.
it's really beautiful. And then you meet people like you, and like we only know each other virtually,
Yeah.
but then eventually somewhere down the line there's going to be an in-person conference, and we'll be there. I'm like, Mary Lou, of course I know Mary Lou.
I
She
mean,
told me
I
all
know
her
Terry
story.
Rosa. I'd be like, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then they'll be like, well, I know her from this, and well, I
Yeah.
know you. But
Yeah.
that's I think that's one of the beautiful things,
Mm-hmm.
and please follow me here. One of the beautiful things about not just being a patient but being an advocate
Yeah.
is that you stay connected in the system,
Yes.
and it makes you realize. I don't know about you. It made me realize how small the world really
Oh,
is.
so
There are
small.
billions of
Tiny.
people on this planet,
Yeah.
but and the odds of bumping into the same group of people, but then you're
Mm-hmm.
there and you're like, I know you. Like, I know you.
Yeah.
Like, I remember. Does that, yeah?
Exactly. And it's the timing. Everything in life is timing. I'm a big, big believer of that. Like, what chances that, like, we would have attended that particular life bulb, meeting or encounter for you to then send out that email, then for me to respond? Or what are the chances that you were in the street And then, and the nurse remembered, you like, what are the chances? Or like, or me, like, it's just, everything's about timing.
Yeah.
Everything. Yeah. Right time, right place.
So the book,
Mhm.
let me show the cover again. How did you decide to write your book?
So writing has always been incredibly therapeutic for me. I think we all have outlets. I don't want to call them escapes, but I think we all have outlets, and maybe we can call it escape. But writing has always been very therapeutic for me. I still have my Hello Kitty journal from when I was 8 years old.
Wow.
So, so and when I started to get involved with advocacy work and speaking and going to these speaking events or registry events to try to register individuals as life-saving donors, I was like, I need to put this to paper or put this to screen. Typing it out and everything. It took me like 8 years. And I kept doing this revise thing. Like, okay, I got to revise this. I got to revise this. When the original, what you originally feel and what you originally write, that is the heart of it. That's the core of it. So I connected the whole publication process is I knew I wanted to go the self-publishing route because it's print on demand. So Amazon, I think it's changed now with Amazon, but they had at that time, so it was published March 2013. It was anyway, yeah, so it was published then, and there was a platform on Amazon called CreateSpace, and I worked with like a whole publishing team to get it edited, to get it out there. And when it finally came out, now again, timing, this book, it came out like a month right before my hip replacement surgery. And at the same time it came out when my second organ donor's mom agreed to receive all of my contact because she was going back and forth. She couldn't. It was for her daughter who was 4 years old, so she couldn't. It's very emotional and sensitive and all of that. So, and when the book was out, I felt like, hopefully, Godspeed, go out to the universe, and if people read it, and hopefully it can help other people on their journey, and it comes out positive, and it's all about perspective, positivity, a lot of it, I think.
What did writing the book do for you?
It did a lot for me. It was a relief in a way to, therapeutically, just to share it. But more than that, it was a hope that now that it was out there, that if people somehow got their hands on it, all over 500 pages of it, that they could relate to it. Because that to me is like what it's all about, is about people connecting and how we're all interconnected, and that people know they're not alone, that there are dark times and there are things that you can do, like that. And while there's darkness, there's always light. That contrast. Yeah.
I feel like whenever I have guests like you, or I get to read a book from one of our fellow advocates
Mm-hmm.
that is health related, there's always that backstory. Like people might think, oh, this is a health related book, but
Mm-hmm.
there's always a backstory. There's always
Mm-hmm.
something that like ties the whole book together. What do you think, or what? Not what do you think, because you wrote the book. What do you believe is your overall story?
My overall story is about overcoming obstacles, about how this is not a solo journey. There's so many people that have contributed in the best of ways. Um, and especially a testament and tribute to my donor families. And most of all, I hope people register as a life-saving organ, eye, and tissue donor to then pass it forward, because living proof that it works. And I hope people think about, and I know it's not an easy topic because you mentioned maybe morbid or mortality, but hey, we're all born into this world. We all check into this world. We're all going to check out. So if you can check out and make your wishes known and to register as a life-saving organ tissue donor, or maybe even consider as being an altruistic living donor, because we can all live with one kidney, then it's really saving lives. And that is all about passing it forward in the best of ways.
I'm going to make sure that I get the organ donor, one of the websites here, so that folks can link in and
to register.
To register, yeah.
So if you go to registerme.org or you go to Donate Life, I don't know but if you type in like Donate Life, I think it should have all the different states where how the process is to register as a life-saving organ tissue donor.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
We'll make sure to add that in the description of the show. So if you are interested in donating organs, if you don't have it on your license already, like here in California, it's on our license, make sure that you do. I have mine.
Yes, the pink heart.
Yeah. So I'm ready. I figure after everything that I've been through, I want to be donated to science and let them figure it out. See what they can come up with at the end.
Sorry, Ricky. This is my cat, Ricky.
Well, hello, Ricky. Welcome to the show. Sorry, Ricky, we don't have your bio or your personal links, so we're gonna just have to.
Sorry about that. He loves Zoom. Oh my! I'm surprised he came in at because normally he's right in the beginning, but I think because he was eating his dinner, his food.
We do have a question on the board for you. Is there a universal organ donor like there is in blood?
That's a really good question, and I think the best way I can answer that is at the time of death. Okay, and there's two types of death. There's brain death and cardiac death. Okay. There's a whole process, but basically the bottom line is that the medical team determines if organs are viable to donate, what organs are viable to donate, and then so forth. So there's not something universal. It's very much on a case-by-case basis because it depends on the death. It depends on what organs are viable or a tissue is viable. It really depends on those factors. That would be great if there, I think that would be great if there was something universal, but there isn't because it's very much a case by case.
So the only experience that I have watching anything that has to do with donors is what we see on medical shows where it's like 911, it's now. We'll see you in the morning. Like it has to be harvested and let's go, people.
Yeah.
Is it really that intense? Did y'all just get a call all of a sudden and said, we're ready to go. Let's go.
No, it's very much on a case-by-case basis because it really depends on the death.
Okay.
Yeah, and it also depends if maybe someone is on a supportive, like life support or supportive mechanism, So, because a person has to be, if it's deceased donor, we're talking about deceased donors. If a person has to be declared dead from the medical team for then the process to begin with the medical team first making the determination of death and then reaching out to the OPO they have to legally report that. So then the OPO, Organ Procurement Organization, can get involved to have that conversation with the family, with the loved ones about the possibility of organ, eye, and tissue donation, transplantation. That is in the case of typically if someone's on life support or supportive mechanism, medical supportive mechanism. If it's like a car accident, it really depends on the death. Yeah. But that's typically the process.
All right. Because I always picture stat. We have a kidney. Everybody go.
Yeah.
911, Mary. Let's send her the bat sign up in the air. Let's go.
Yeah, exactly. And medical dramas, it's always very interesting. Yeah.
So I have another question on the board for you. We are on the advent of organ printing. What are your feelings on this new technology?
I'm open to any type of medical advances, scientific advances, because there's such an organ shortage. There's a huge organ shortage. And I think I might have given a statistic for there's over 120,000, waiting for a life-saving organ tissue donation. Every day up to 20 people die waiting for a transplant. I've known people that have died waiting for a transplant. And it's very and it's not just that person, it affects the whole family again too. It's, it has ripple effects. Yeah.
Gotcha. I just printed one and now I lost the. Oh, there it is. Sorry, I'm moving some. I'm typing as we're speaking to make sure that this is the one that I found.
Yes, that's perfect.
All right. So make sure for everybody watching, if you are interested in more information or donating or signing up, go check out organdonor.gov for more information. Now, I want to remind everybody you're watching Put It Together Conversations. I'm your host, Daniel G. Garza. We're talking to kidney transplant advocate and patient, Mary Wu, and we're talking about purposes in life and donations and how it really works in the real world, folks. Don't believe everything you see on Grey's Anatomy. It doesn't always work that way.
Yeah.
They're not all making out in the closet. Let me just tell you. And don't go to a hospital and make out in the closet because they kick you out for that too. So
I'd like to think they get fired.
Now, this is about the time of the show where we share some words of wisdom with our audience. Mary Wu, what words of wisdom can you share with us?
Oh, where do I begin now? I would just say, if anything, I hope anyone listening or tuning in to this is that to have a conversation with your loved ones about life and death. They are marital partners, if you will, or they're partners. They are, just like we were talking about contrast. We were talking about can't have one without the other. And that this is all about our stories. This is about my donors and my loved ones. And, I'm just grateful and just about living life to the absolute fullest. Life is truly a gift, not to be taken granted for. Life can just change in a blink of an eye, the best ways or worst ways. And it's just, we're just really being in the moment and living it.
That's pretty cool. Thank you. We want to remind everybody, this is one of the websites you can go to. There's plenty of websites, but this is one of the websites you can go to for donor information. So make sure you check it out. And if you're not registered on your license, please do so. If you can, donate your organs, save somebody else's life. And you can live vicariously through them when they move on. Mm-hmm. This is Mary's website. We thought that was such a genius name for a website. Christian and I were talking about this before the show. It's such a genius, so cute. So, and now that I've met you in person, it totally fits you. It is so you. It is so you. So make sure you go check out the Wu Wei. And this is her book, Confessions of a Kidney Transplant Recipient. You can find this on Amazon Books. So make sure you go check that out too. We still have about 10 minutes. Is there anything that we didn't talk about that you would like to bring up?
No, let me ask Ricky.
Yes, Ricky, we didn't have his bio prepared. That just goes. Well, when he sent it in, it was all meow 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 meow, and I didn't know how to translate that. So
I know, right? No, I just really wanted to thank you, for having this platform, for doing this, and because you alone. I mean, and I'm sure there's so many people involved to make this happen. Again, not a solo process. That. I just want to thank you. It's really been an honor, and I'm very grateful to Lifebulb for allowing us to, be here in a sense, and for you to just do this because it's so important and it's so incredible. So I really want to thank you for that, for this opportunity, and for doing what you do.
Thank you. Yeah, let me, while we talk, I'm going to get there. There you go. Christian does speak kitten, so there is Christian's kitty meow meow. Make sure that we keep Ricky in the conversation.
You look so happy.
Let us know later what he thinks about this, and while we talk, I am getting the Lifebulb website up so that we can talk about this. But for those of you who hear us talk about Lifebulb, and I've mentioned them before on the show, they are an organization that caters to conversations about recovery, transplant, and cancer. Cancer. There we go.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna copy this over really quick so that you guys can check it out. It's like, how does he do it? I don't know. I have like 100 different hands under here working
Yeah, I
together.
mean, you're given a run for the money for an octopus.
There we go, guys. Make sure you go check them out, lifebulb.com, and they have all kinds of resources. One of the things that I really like about them is that they encourage innovation in transplant recovery
Yes.
and cancer. So keep an eye out for their giveaways. Basically, it's you submit your proposal for a new project or something you're already working on, and they give away $25,000 to. It's not all the time. Don't get excited, but make sure you go check their website out and see what they're working on now, and you can help. I've helped them in a couple of different programs, and they're a great company to work with. So
Yeah, they're
go
awesome.
check them out. Go check them out. I think. Oh, there we go. Christian is still wanting. Oh, thank you. An important topic. Great.
Oh,
Oh, great to see you. Kenji.
Kenji. Oh, hi, Kenji. Yeah.
And Christian is still making honor to Ricky. They're having their own private conversation. So let Ricky know that he has fans out there now. And
Yeah.
thank you, Kenji, thank you for being here. Thank you for watching us.
Thank you, Kenji.
What's next for you, Mary?
Oh, what's next for me? Well, I love traveling. Actually, what's next for me is probably the next games will be the Transplant Games of America. The next games will be in San Diego, California. And I'm an avid swimmer. So I swim like 3 to 5 days a week. I have to swim because I eat a lot and I make ice cream all the time. So I need to balance it out. I don't think it's really working though, the intake versus the intake. So I want to train for the next games. And a little background about swimming, I didn't learn to swim till I was 10. I couldn't get my legs up because of my medical issues and whatnot. So I was very scared of swimming, and I always like to say, do what you fear. And my sister's an avid swimmer. She does open water swims. Like she wants to do Alcatraz. She's in the Hudson River. And so that'll be my next thing, is really getting ready, hopefully for the transplant games, and just swimming my heart out and just, meeting with everybody again. And I would also like to publish my poems. That's probably something else I want to work on next.
Your poems?
Yeah, because I do open mics for I've written so many poems. Okay, Ricky said bye, by the way. He's like, I'm done. Peace out, Cub Scouts. But anyway, yeah, so I would love to publish my poems. That would actually be something else I would like to work on.
That's it. Like I said, there's always a connection between my guest, and the interesting connection is that the first guest this morning is a poet. So I'll have to connect you guys, and
yeah,
maybe he has some words of wisdom to share with you about poetry and publishing and stuff like that. So
I am all for words of wisdom. So I would love that. That would be an honor.
Well, if you happen to come down to San Diego, we look forward to meeting you out here. That would be a great opportunity to. That would be somebody that I would love to go from there and stream live from there to our audience.
Oh, you should totally do it. That's it. The Transplant Games America. So it was I'm in New York, and it was supposed to be in 2020, the Meadowlands. And this is a huge American dream wall, but it didn't happen because of the lockdown, because of the pandemic and everything. So they did it. They moved it to this year, and we just finished the Transplant Games of America hybrid. It was virtual. Yeah, it was a hybrid bit. But next year, all things considered, it will be in San Diego, California. I love San Diego, California. That is paradise on earth. The weather alone, I love it so much. But yeah, so, and then the World Games are going to be in Australia. So every other year, so every 2 years are the games in the United States. It's always been, like it's in a new state or something of that nature. And then the alternating years are the World Games, I believe.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
I'll have to submit, see if I can get a way to go in and interview people there for our shows.
Oh, but
Maybe.
you should definitely. I mean, if it's definitely. Like, I mean, if there's anything I can help with that, let me know, because it's an incredible. It's just so life affirming. Like, you just go there and you're just like, life is beautiful. Like, life is just incredible. Like, it just brings everything just so. There aren't words. You just have to experience it. Yeah.
First of all, let me disclaimer. I love what I do. I get to talk to so many different people in the last over 9 years that I've been doing this show. But because of the health issues that I've been through, some of my favorite people to talk to are other people that have gone through health issues that have the potential to not have us here anymore. There is, and I see this in you, there is this inner light that just shines. It just perpetually shines. And I feel like it's because we've learned to shine even in the darkest moments, that when things are good, we just shine even brighter. And you definitely have that energy. And I'm so honored and grateful that you chose to come and share your story on my show. Thank you.
Well, thank you for having it. And if I'm shining, it's because I have happy lights. Like seasonal disorder or something. I love lights. So laughter, right? Laughter is the best medicine. No insurance can get one up above laughter.
That was really good. No, it's not me. It's the lights. It's just happy light. Like it. Darn it. Well, Mary, thank you so much for being here. Again, for everybody watching, make sure you go check out her website, The Wu Way, and make sure you check out her book, Confessions of a Kidney Transplant Recipient, by Mary H. Wu. You can find this on Amazon. Mary, I'm going to put you in the green room for a minute, but thank you so much for being here. It has been a pleasure talking to you, and let's do this again.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Really appreciate everything, your time and energy and all of this. Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll come get you in just a second. Give me a second. For everybody watching, again, I am Daniel G. Garza. This is Putting Together Conversations. Remember, we have shows pretty much all week. Wednesdays, we have the Christian and Daniel show. On Fridays, it's the Card Devo. And on Saturdays, Putting Together Conversations at noon and 5 with an occasional 2 o'clock show. So make sure that you're following us so you can get information on all the shows. We're on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. Hey, and if you're watching us on YouTube, will you scroll down and hit that subscribe button? Hit the like button too. That'll help us a whole lot. If you're on TikTok, why aren't you following me? Join me on TikTok at the Card Devo, Monday to Fridays at 9 a.m. for the Breakfast at the Comadres. It's just an hour of card readings and motivational words and words of wisdom, and we just get to share about our day. So make sure on TikTok, the Card Devo, Monday to Fridays at 9 a.m. Also, you've heard me talk about it. I say it every show. That's my book. It's The Grumpy Bunny and the Colors Game. It's a book dedicated to kids, but it's really for anybody. If you're into meditation, chakras, and guided meditations, go check it out. It's going to help you align your chakras. Again, good for kids, great for everybody. You can find it at any of these 5 book outlets. Go check it out. Coming out in Spanish soon. And for my friends in El Paso, I will be in El Paso in September for the book fair, promoting both the English and the Spanish version. So make sure you go check us out. I want to thank everybody for joining us. Remember, Putting Together Conversations is a show about folks. It's about you, where you come from, where you are now, and what your journey's been like. And we hope that every story inspires and motivates somebody to go after their dreams and goals. So if you have a story to share, get in touch with us. Or if you want to nominate somebody to be on the show, send us their information on any of the platforms, and we'll send you an email with some info. For now, I want to thank all of you for being here on the show. This is Putting Together Conversations, and we'll see you folks next week. Thank you for joining us. Bye-bye.